If you've ever wondered what exactly is sherry, well, you're not alone. A lot of people actually wonder this on a daily basis, so let's break down exactly what the hell is sherry. So sherry isn't just one wine. It's actually a whole family of them, all hailing from the Jerez region in southern Spain. And that's where the Atlantic and Mediterranean climates meet, which provides a really unique environment for these wines and their production. Now, sherry production primarily relies on the Palomino grape, but that's just for dry sherry, and it's suited to this region's magnificent chalky soil. There is also sweet sherry. Mostly, sweet sherry is made using Pedro Ximénez and Muscatel grapes, and they're often sun-dried on the vine in order to concentrate their sugars. Now, after the pressing, the grapes undergo fermentation, and while most sherry is made from fully fermented Palomino must, sweet sherries halt fermentation early to preserve residual sugar. Now, the key factor in sherry production is, of course, flor. Now, flor is a yeast layer that forms on the surface of particular wines, significantly impacting their character. Depending on the quality of wine and the quality of that thin layer of yeast, which is that flor, that's actually going to make the decision for the winemaker in terms of what this particular wine is going to be. But I will get to that because the other crucial part of sherry is, of course, fortification. Now, sherry wines that are fortified to around 15% actually maintain that layer of flor or that layer of yeast, which protects the wine. And then the wine undergoes something called biological aging, which is aging underneath that layer of flor. This style of aging with these light, crisp, elegant wines results in styles like Fino sherry and Manzanilla sherry. Now, wines fortified to higher levels actually lose that layer of flor and undergo something called oxidative aging. And that leads to a very particular style of sherry called Oloroso, which is rich and nutty. Now, the solera system is central to sherry aging, and this system involves blending older and younger wines in a pyramid of barrels, creating consistent flavor profiles over time. Now, while Fino and Manzanilla age biologically, Oloroso matures through oxidization. Now, sometimes that layer of flor is disrupted, whether that be because of more alcohol being created during the fermentation process, which then kills the flor, or whether there's too much heat. Any of these variables can lead to the flor actually dying, which then leads to styles like Amontillado and Palo Cortado, which actually exhibit both aging styles, so both biological aging and also oxidative aging. After aging, sherry is drawn off for bottling, and this process often includes blending for consistency, filtration to remove sediment, and potential adjustments to alcohol levels. Now, finally, the sherry is bottled and prepared for distribution. Now, in terms of those styles, Fino is light and dry. Amontillado has these nutty, elegant notes, also notes of toasted oranges, and Oloroso is rich, nutty, and dry. Then we have a whole host of sweetened styles. So all of those sherries that I've just mentioned are made essentially using one grape varietal, Palomino. Sherry is an incredible fortified and sometimes oxidized wine from Jerez in southern Spain, which has over a 3,000-year history of making wine within this particular region. Now, Jerez has been owned by the Romans and then later the Moors that actually named the town Xeres, which is where we actually get the word Jerez or sherry from. And people have been drinking and enjoying sherry for ages. Now, you might know sherry because your grandma might drink sherry, or perhaps someone that you know in Britain loved sherry at one time. Now, there's a really good reason that the British stereotypically love sherry, and that's because in 1597, Francis Drake sacked Cadiz, and when he did that, he took 2,900 barrels of sherry back to England as spoils, and so everyone then associated it with great stuff to drink because you just destroyed your enemies. So all of those particular styles that I've just mentioned, Fino, Manzanilla, Amontillado, Palo Cortado, and Oloroso, are all made from Palomino grape. That's the name of the actual grape varietal. However, there's a whole host of sweet sherries that are made with a completely different style in mind. These are known as sweet sherries. Sometimes they are blended together to make things like cream sherry, but these sherries are made with a completely different grape varietal called Pedro Ximénez or Muscatel. As opposed to being picked on the vine when they are ripe, Pedro Ximénez and Muscatel are sometimes left on the vine to literally turn into raisins before being pressed. And they create this very viscous, sweet, and elegant style of fortified wine that is then vinified in the same way as the dry sherry style. The drying of the grapes on the vine essentially leads to a concentration of sugar, so that when we press it, we have a ton of leftover sugar, which is then fortified earlier in the fermentation process. So we keep all of that delicious sweetness right there. Now, Jerez itself is home to a whole host of world-famous bodegas, or these wineries that make sherry. One of the largest among them is González Bayas, who's known for Tío Pepe Fino. Then there's Lostau, which specializes in Amontillado and Oloroso. And then we have Barbadillo, which is famous for its Oloroso as well. Now, Valdespino is known for its traditional methods and exceptional Pedro Jimenez. So sherry is actually this incredibly diverse world of wine. Now, you can drink sherry straight out of the fridge, or you can mix it into a whole host of great, delicious drinks. For example, like the sherry cobbler, which will be down below in the description of the video if you want to learn how to make it, or you can just simply drink it straight. If you are drinking dry sherry, I'd recommend that you drink it paired with something like olives or oysters or bright, refreshing foods as an aperitif. And if you're drinking sweet sherry, then I'd recommend that, well, you drink it with dessert. Now, if you want to learn more about sherry, you want to drink more sherry, all you need to do is go to your local bottle shop and try it. Grab a bottle, stick it in the fridge, and drink it as you would any kind of dry white wine. Drink a small amount of it. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fair enough too.